All right, let's see. 8 minutes into the recording.
We're hot, and you didn't
Audio
even
check.
tell
He
me?
told us a while ago. He told us 8 minutes
What?
ago.
Yeah.
He told us
About
know,
9 minutes ago, I
Joe.
said, all right, I'm going to start recording. I'm going to do the thing.
Yeah.
You
I
said,
kept
yeah,
me on
I
track.
might start recording, but you didn't say, hey, we're hot. You gotta give a man some notice.
We're hot.
Mic check. Mic check.
I
mic check.
got a ham. Mic
Am I
check.
being
2, 3.
picked up? Mic check.
Hello, and welcome to the Mead Hall. Grab a drink and join us on this quest for scandal, comical analysis, and hilarity. If you're not old enough to grab a drink, or close to it, this podcast probably isn't for you. Come back in a little while. Alright, let's just start. Mike.
Put this up.
Hey Internet, my name is Joey, the resident musical douche, and I've played over 1,000 hours of D&D.
I'm Seth, and I pre-ordered the collector's edition of Cyberpunk 2077.
I'm Ian, and I've seen every Star Wars movie twice. This is the Friction Podcast, and today we're looking at Tara Gilesbie's landmark fan fiction, My Immortal.
We have no
Okay.
transition to topic. Seth.
Yeah, so let's dive right in.
So for everyone unfamiliar, this is a gothic or gothic fan fiction of Harry Potter. It's also, I guess you qualified as erotic fan fiction. Some sex happens.
I mean,
I took
it's
notes
not slash
on that.
fiction.
Right. It's not slash fiction, but
Hmm.
just kind of natural once you get teenagers who look like Amy Lee and Gerard Way, and
Yeah.
they're gonna have sex, right? They're gonna be attracted to each other. It's gonna happen. So that definitely happens. So she kind of plays around with the characters of Harry Potter, and self-insert, right? It also falls under that category because she makes herself a character in it. And it's also, again, I think we've said it, one of the most famous fan fictions ever. It's on Wikipedia. You don't just get on Wikipedia.
You don't.
It's also decently old. Like, it's from the early 2000s.
2008.
Yeah. Late 2000s.
Copyright 2008 on the website.
Excuse me.
So.
God, so I don't know what some cover is.
Do we
I've
know
got no
Wikipedia
idea.
might tell us how long this was in publication? Because she does this weekly, right?
Allegedly.
Yeah, except for when she goes to vacation.
Yes. Also, who is she?
Transylvania.
It's Tara Gilesbie. Tara Gilesbie's My Immortal.
Yes. So shout out to the author, Tara Gilesbie.
Mhm.
I don't know if she still writes, but we realize she does still produce some content on the internet. So hit her up, tell her your thoughts. And I think this is a good place for this. We want to say, as a group, we're going to recognize we're going to trash on this. We're going to trash on this a lot, but overall, we recognize it's very hard to write something. We're all creatives. We all like to create, so it's very difficult to create something. And so we're going to approach it with, yes, we're going to trash, but in a very high level criticism way. So we're taking it very seriously. We're not treating it as a joke. We're just treating it the way that we would any piece of literature, like in a class or just talking amongst friends. Because again, we're not here to be mean. We're not here to bully people for putting their stuff out there. We are here to talk about it.
Double exclaimer from me. I am that harsh. But with the caveat of I'm equally as harsh on myself and my own products. I'm definitely my biggest critic. Anyway, do either one of you want to give a nice synopsis?
Okay, I can do that.
Mhm.
So we're introduced to Ebony Ravenway Darkness.
Ebony Dementia.
Ebony Dementia Ravenway Darkness. See, I've already fucked it up. But
Wait, it's Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway because it ends with way.
we're introduced to Ebony, who looks like Amy Lee, and she and Draco Malfoy go to several concerts throughout this. I don't even know, because it's so character driven. How do you summarize?
It is. Well, I guess you could say they start off being friends, but she's very interested in him. He's interested in
Yes.
her. And then he's like, do you want to see a good Charlotte concert in Hogsmeade?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, we kind of get where sort of the pinch is, in literature, where the pinch is, which is Voldemort wants to kill Harry Potter,
As always.
called Vampire in this,
important.
nicknamed because he's gothic.
Because
Get
he
it.
likes the taste of human blood.
He likes the taste of exactly. So
But
he's
he's not
vampire.
That's the quote.
It's important to know he likes to taste the human blood, but he's also not a real vampire. He's just
Right.
called vampire. Unlike our main character, who is a vampire but with smooth teeth. No
Yes.
thanks.
Important to notice. Smooth teeth vampire. Draco's also a vampire. That comes up. Can't wait to
Yeah.
talk about that because she actually does a very clever move later on. But so yeah, vampire. Voldemort wants to kill vampire, so he tells Ebony to do it, or he will kill Draco. And what ensues is a very eclectic mix of her trying to avoid killing either of them while hooking up with both of them at different points.
What Ian's trying to say is that what happens next is nothing. Because as soon as Voldemort issues this challenge to her, she's like, oh, what am I going to do? And then she falls asleep, wakes up, puts on more clothes, and then goes about her Hogwarts day.
Yes, of course.
It's all of it.
Let me bring up one thing. Since this is obviously the meat hall, if you would like to start a drinking game, like at home, we made the joke of you drink every time she describes someone's clothes, what they're wearing.
A paragraph of it.
Yeah, yep. Once per
not
paragraph.
Every word.
Not every sentence. That's way too much. You'll be drunk by chapter 2.
That's saying something because the chapters are literally 10 words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of them are much longer.
There are some long chapters towards the end, but we have yet to synopsize all of it. So
right.
Voldemort, Ian, continue. Voldemort comes in, he's like, kill vampire for me.
Yes.
And then she's conflicted because she's into both of them, and they're into each other because they dated once because they're both bi guys. And bi guys are sex off.
Bi guys are sex off.
Yes,
Can't forget that.
As in the sexual orientation, not the leaves you often.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah. Editor, put in the drum riff. Or crickets. It's up to you.
Maybe.
But yeah, so Voldemort issues this challenge, and then nothing happens. She gets peeped on by Lupin and Snape, who are suddenly friends for some reason. Which I can't tell if that's meant to place this around like circa the third book, but they're much older.
It's nebulous. I feel like we're not supposed to know.
Because she does make reference to things after the fourth book as well.
Yeah, I mean, she mentions that she's in her 7th year, so I would assume it's close to they're the same age.
Okay.
Or maybe it's a super senior thing where it's after all the books and they just but before they get old.
Yeah, it also might not matter at all.
It's true. It is a fanfiction, and so the timeline is irrelevant.
Yes.
But so Voldemort issues a challenge. They kind of go about their day. Nothing really happens. Some interesting things happen with Hagrid, and then Voldemort comes back at another Good Charlotte concert, or was it MCR? Another concert.
It was MCR because this is important. He is Gerard Way.
Yes.
Gerard Way takes off his mask, and it's Volksamort, and he's standing on stage.
Volksamort. Enter Professor Trelawney, who helps Ebony with the crazy visions of Draco being tortured that she's been having. Professor Trelawney helps her explain those, and then tells her that to solve all of her problems, what she needs to do is go back in time and seduce Voldemort when he is still Tom Riddle / Satan.
Satan. That's right.
I don't.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
This is good. You're experiencing this for the first time. So this is what she goes back in time.
And it's important to know for both Joey and people who haven't read this. That sounds like the first third of the story. That's half of it. Half of the story is waking up, putting on clothes, and then all of a sudden this time travel plot comes in at the middle. It's like, here's the story. It's about you time traveling.
Yeah, I got
exactly
12, 13 chapters in. No idea. No clue.
Yeah. So her new goal is to time travel back in time to seduce Satan.
Yes. So she meets several of our favorite characters who have all converted to Satanism and moved to Slytherin. It's an important note. Everyone's in Slytherin.
Yeah.
This because they all convert to Satanism.
And you're the only one who's read all this completely, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we only meet one Gryffindor, and her name is Brittany, and she's a prep.
Yes.
And we put
Brittany
our
the prep.
at her.
Put your middle finger up at the preps. She goes back in time. She joins. So, Lucius Malfoy, James Potter, Snape, and Sirius Black are all in a band together. They need a lead singer. This is very important because she can sing. She's in a band back in her timeline. So she joins their band. She hangs out with Satan. She feels conflicted because she's in love with Draco, but Satan is just so sexa,
Yeah.
and she has to seduce him. Once Trelawney sobers up, and which is literal, right? She's drinking a magic potion that allows Ebony to go back in time. They don't really explain the physics of that, but sometimes you just have to, principle of charity, roll with it. So Trelawney sobers up and she gets pulled back to her timeline. Voldemort once again, kill vampire or I'll kill Draco. What's Ebony to do? What is Ebony to do? She goes back in time again. Marty McFly helps her out with all the time traveling things. Everybody's favorite.
So it's not the necklace thing in the books.
No, it's Professor
weird.
Trelawney getting drunk.
No, it's because the first time it happens, Trelawney, also known as Sinister, gives her a time. She says time toner. I think we can all assume it's time turner. They give her a pensive, and then she jumps sexily into it. And that's how she time travels the first time.
Yeah.
Sexily.
Jumps sexily into the pensive. So I feel like they might, time traveling rules are fast and loose in this story.
Yes.
But that I mean they change every 5 minutes.
Fast and loose.
Fast and loose, yes. I know there's a threesome somewhere in here. Around the time I'm talking about.
I was waiting for it. I didn't get to it. I feel bad. I knew it was going to happen. The second she started describing vampire, I was like,
yeah.
Man.
And then the climax occurs because I don't fully remember, but from what I understand, Satan comes to our time.
Oh, I thought that was going to be.
And she shoots him. She shoots Voldemort, and Voldemort from the old time and Voldemort from the now time. After playing a concert with her band in the past.
Her band's name is Black X Tier X. Just want to put that out there. So that's, and Ian says that's the climax. What it also is the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there is no resolution.
See, falling action resolution. Obviously not necessary. Not a thing.
No. All you need is the there's two parts to the story. There's the clothes the character's wearing and the climax. That's all this thing is. What they look like, what they're doing.
Without giving it away, I'm very excited to talk about that when we come to our analysis of the final section, because I like the way that challenges us as readers, and like kind of plays with our expectations. It's Scorsese-esque.
Mm-hmm. So now that we've synopsized all of it, do we want to jump into our sections that we covered?
Yes, Joey, kick us off. What notes do you have? What do you want to?
Would I have much of sections? I kind of made notes as critiques as it went along, things that made me wonder, or why is that like that, or just things I thought were funny.
Okay,
is that the entire thing?
Well, so she obviously describes who she is, she describes her eye color, icy blue.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time. And of course, introduce Draco, the initial love, right? That's about all the first 4 chapters are.
Mm-hmm.
Except chapter 4, the climax. That's when it really starts. The story doesn't start until about chapter 4. Chapter 3, chapter 4. So of course, Draco.
I feel like that's a very interesting choice to make as an author, to start your story at chapter 4.
Yeah. It's like, they talk about in medias res, like all those epics start off right in the thick of things. And this is like kind of the opposite. It's like, let's start well before the thick of things. It's built into the story.
Yeah. Continue, Joey.
So Draco asks Raven to go to the concert in Hogsmeade, like you mentioned. There we go. In chapter 3, the concert scene. Right? So I just thought I had to read this.
Yes.
So of course, she starts. Joel is so Sorry, excuse me. This is during a concert. Joel is so fucking hot! I said to Draco, pointing to him as he sung, filling the club with his amazing voice. Suddenly, Draco looked sad. What's wrong? I asked as we moshed to the music. Then I caught on. Hey, it's okay. I don't like him better than you, I said. Really? Asked Draco sensitively as he put his arm around me all protective. Really? I said. Besides, I don't even know Joel, and he's going out with Hillary fucking Duff. I fucking hate that little bitch, I said disgustedly, thinking of her ugly blonde face. Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So that was obviously my initial thought. And I did do that the first time we read it. I was reading it out loud to my other two members here in this podcast. And I was like, Joel's so fucking hot. And I was like, wait. Concert. They can't hear. They're in a mosh pit. They just said
in the
that.
mosh
Right.
pit. And
Right.
They're obviously yelling.
Actively
But, you know,
moshing.
yes,
I
they're like,
I don't think the description quite conveys that. I feel like I
Right,
just had
right.
to assume that.
Yeah. Listeners at home, Ian just shook his head and his arms as if he was in a mosh pit. And it was great.
yes. Thank you.
I would also like to point out this is the definitely not the last time that the author makes themselves known in an interesting way. Because those who haven't listened to our podcast before, which is everyone, and those who haven't read fanfiction before must know there is a thing called an author's note that this author uses heavily, where the author breaks down the fourth wall
The beginning of
and
every
talks
chapter.
to the audience. And at the beginning of every chapter. But in the text, we have things like this, where parentheses appear, and the author just makes themselves known in stuff like this, like how she hates Hillary Duff, like exclusively Hillary Duff, and it's very powerful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To set up the wall of the art, and then
Yeah.
to tear it down and build it back up again, like it's nothing.
Or extra descriptions, like Draco leaned in extra close, and I looked into his gothic red eyes. He was wearing color contacts. You know.
Yes, that's important.
Yeah, I'm glad you really brought that up, because I just love the way that these author notes, they like interact so directly with their reader. I think that that's like a really cool particular of this format, because like there are definitely points when she's interacting with her readers, like people, she's using names obviously of her friends editing, but also like the preps. So anybody who doesn't like her story, and she takes that from like what seems to be like a message board or a set of comments or something, and tells them when she thinks they're wrong. But she also adjusts based on their notes, because I noticed in the transition from chapter 4 to 5, her characterization of Dumbledore completely changes. You know, her author's note there is, stop flaming. If you flam, it means you're a prep or a poser. The only reason Dumbledore swore is because he had a headache, okay? And on top of that, he was mad at them for having sex. P.S. I'm not updating until I get 5 God reviews.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Of course.
For those at home who might be confused as to why Ian talked like that, he's
Why
speaking
Ian-
language
why-
known as Gothic.
Why Ian
Yes.
sounded like a baby.
Yes.
He's talking to a
And-
baby.
This is
That's
this
how
is a
it's
good
spelled.
point. This is a good part to talk about the genius of the text, where the author's notes are written in 100% Gothic text, but then the body is a amalgamation between English and Gothic. It switches between loosely, so it takes a bit to get used to.
It does.
Oh my gosh! And I
Right.
also like to point out that note about Dumbledore about having a headache. That again does not come up in the text at all. That's all the author telling you.
Yeah.
This. Imagine watching a play
It does.
later, right?
It does. In chapter 10.
See, it comes back in chapter 10, but in the beginning, she just curses, and the author comes in and says because he has a headache, and then
Right.
backs out. It's very interesting. We don't see that often in anything.
Right. So I'll start going chronologically from my notes, from like chapter 1 to chapter 12. So obviously, first thing, I'm a logical person. Like I want to know the consequences of like the nuances of what one's actions do. Right? So obviously, don't do this. The main character was slitting her wrists and reading a book at the same time.
Yeah.
So of
Yes.
course,
Oh.
my initial thought was, wait, how's she reading this book when her arms are bleeding? Right? It doesn't explain like
Yeah.
she patches herself up or like she does any of that. Like is she just like bleeding all over her book?
Well, she's a vampire. She doesn't have.
Well, it does say the section Joey's talking about. She says, "I read a sad book as I waited for it to stop bleeding."
Right.
That's true.
So we do have.
Right.
guess it's implied
Of
that she
blood.
patches herself up because she's like maybe like putting pressure on
She
it to
also
wait
cries
for it to start
tears.
bleeding, or you
Mm.
know her
And I feel
vampire
like
healing maybe that's not established. If
Yeah, we
she
probably
has
should add this in the
extra powers
disclaimer.
like that I know of, as far
Yeah,
as what
probably
I've
should,
read.
probably should have said this in disclaimer, but there is numerous instances of somewhat graphic self-mutilation in
Yeah.
this
Multiple
fanfic.
characters.
Multiple characters, multiple times. So keep that in mind.
again,
Trigger
adult
warning,
things.
I guess. Dumb
It's
shit.
rather glorified in a lot of spots too. It's
It
like,
is.
oh, he's so cool. He cut his wrists, and
And
it's
the fact it's glorified, not surprising. to me.
yeah, yeah. I think that's
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's definitely, you definitely read part of it and
Mm.
you're like, ooh. Yeah,
Yes.
next.
But go back to Joey's point. I think he's trying to have a conversation about, do vampires have blood? Because in this fanfic, not only does she bleed from her cuts, but she also cries tears of blood. And not just her. Every character is also a vampire, which is most characters, cries tears of blood at some point.
Mhm.
And almost everyone has red eyes.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I have. We get to my section. Don't worry about it. So, I feel like the answer in this fanfic, in this universe, vampires have blood when it's convenient. I guess
Mm,
these vampires don't have fangs and they have blood. So it feels like,
yes,
honestly, it feels like the author looked at vampires and said, "What's cool about them? What's not?" And what's not cool is killing people, but what is cool is drinking blood.
that's
And
true.
slitting your
That's true.
wrists.
Yeah.
And
And
slitting
what's
your
not
wrist.
cool is being dead. What is cool is pretending to be dead.
Right.
Right. I think it's very important though. So vampires cannot die from bleeding out of their slit wrists. She makes that a very big
yes,
deal,
yes.
and it comes
I've noted
up.
this later.
Okay.
Okay. A lot
Right.
happens in this game. I guess I forgot about
so
that.
continuing chronologically.
Yes.
Right. Super obsession with Marilyn Manson, which I don't really know much. I don't think it's aged well.
I'd argue
It-
it's more.
mm,
Well, Marilyn Manson
nope.
thing didn't, but I
Yeah.
argue it's Marilyn Manson and MCR and GC and Joel Madden probably in there somewhere.
Oh,
with
and
those bands.
Linkin Park. There's a couple.
Yeah,
Linkin
and Linkin
Parks.
Park, Green Day and Linkin Park are kind of thrown in there last minute. Like
Yeah,
they're not too hardcore, but I feel like
Right,
people will
right.
know them.
they're definitely the
So-
ones mentioned last.
Yes.
Kind of
But
an appeal
Marilyn
to
Manson-
popularity.
Yeah,
Marilyn Manson aged pretty bad.
Yeah.
like she got reviews that were like, "Okay, we get it. You like Good Charlotte, Marilyn Manson," and she was like, "I like Linkin Park too, guys.
Yeah.
Come on."
Yeah. Jory,
I
are
was
you
gonna Linkin
aware of
Park-
what happened with Marilyn Manson?
No, I'm not.
Okay,
Would you like to
he's a
elaborate?
rapist.
Oh.
He's a rapist. He's like a full-on
Great.
like abused several of his
Then,
girlfriends
yeah,
and
no, bad.
was like
Hmm.
a sexual assaulter rapist
no,
type.
I'm
Dang,
Yeah.
to think someone like
not
that.
in tune enough with modern pop music. If
Well, it
it's-
came
if
out
it's-
as the same
is
time as
not
Army Hammer's a
pop.
Cannibal for sex reasons, so like it
Yeah.
kind of they both kind of like hit and then
right.
cancel each other out.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, definitely did not age well.
No.
I also thought as I went along that this story was written conveniently written like a D&D campaign, you know?
Okay. Okay. What do
Okay,
you mean by that?
I'm
Expand
ready for
on
that. Yes, please.
like it's this whole thing where she like starts to go on a rant, but then the next chapter she's just like, "Oh hey, this thing that I wrote, just kidding, this other thing happened." And we're focusing on that, and this is where the story's going. Every time.
Okay. Okay, so it's like a D&D campaign with the fact that it's people who don't know how to write writing.
I mean, I guess.
Sorry.
I thought I was supposed to be the mean one, but yeah.
I know that was really mean because Joey has thousands of hours in D&D. I am a dungeon master, and none of us can write, and we try. And I get what Joey means. This has the flavor of a D&D campaign, especially the self-insert part.
Yeah.
You know, she is everywhere in this, and she's all powerful. So
That also brought me to my other question that I brought up after, which is, does she even know what an ampersand is? Which is mean,
don't feel
and that's what
bad.
I'm
Do
supposed
I
to do.
even know
No,
what
I'm
an
the mean one.
ampersand
No,
is?
this is my
At
job.
home.
I'm the mean one. I'm supposed to be mean. Like she uses some words. Like I think she used like Iliad once. like some word that I'm like, wait, this doesn't match the grammatical knowledge of the rest of the story. This feels really random.
That's all the
Like,
story.
I don't know if this is on purpose or if like she just like looked up something. Like, I mean, I'm in college. I go to thesaurus.com. Like, oh yeah, that word looks.
Oh yeah,
that
that's my
sounds
favorite
good.
website.
So I mean,
Yes,
understandable.
I have a
Yeah.
similar note for chapter 11 when we get to this. Like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, I'm vibing with what you're talking about. Like,
right?
And
is she low key smart for this moment, or did she misspell
Like,
something?
yeah, it brings up the question: is she intentionally writing this as like, I mean, like newspapers are written at a lower level of reading comprehension, so that more of the public can understand it. Like, that's intentional. So I don't know if like it's like this person is like actually very book smart and is like intentionally. I mean, the gothic thing is obviously intentional. So
Gothic
it
you
makes
have
me
to
think
really
that
try.
maybe the rest of it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little hard to tell. And one thing I will give a plus to, in between all the chapters with Draco in it, we got the detail in chapter 2, I believe, chapter 2, chapter 3, that Draco's license plate number was 666. In between all the headings of the chapters, there are lines of X's with 666 in the middle.
Yes, that's
And
because
the
the
ones that don't
authors
have
are
Draco
Satanists.
don't have that. They just have the X's.
Mm-hmm. Because apparently,
Whoa!
being a goth and being a Satanist are the same thing.
Yeah.
They go
Of
one and
course.
one together. There's no separation.
Well, I guess God must be a prep.
Yeah, God.
So
yeah,
it's
God's
part
the
of
ultimate
it.
Prep.
The ultimate prep, exactly.
Mhm.
We all know how preppy Jesus was, living in the start of the collapse of the Roman Empire.
Oh yeah. Mm.
I bet he did the thing where you take the tennis sweater and you like, you tie it and put it over your shoulders.
Right.
Yeah, that's why he got crucified.
Can I please have that? Can I please have that photo, that painting of the blonde Nordic Jesus, but then he has a sweater vest and like a cardigan tied over his shoulders.
Yes.
Can I please have that? I want that.
And a mini poodle.
I will hang it on my basement door.
Let's do it.
Jesus.
Along with my please knock, we're learning about Jesus sign from the 70s.
Oh yeah, I love that sign.
It's so good. Right. So the next I had next chapter 4, right? That's when her and Draco first have sex.
Well, wait, there's sex in this?
Yes. Very
Are you,
adult
are
things.
you
Remember?
serious?
Did you
It's
not
30%.
Did you
Sorry,
not
Seth.
listen to the beginning of the podcast, Seth?
Come on, man. You were
Sorry.
It's
here.
about a whole
I'm
thing.
sorry.
If you're not old enough to drink, you probably shouldn't be here anyway. Come back in a little bit. It's adult stuff.
Yeah.
It's adult
Adult-
topics.
Adult stuff with 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
We're 17, but we're gonna ignore that part because continue. Describe this sex scene. Air quotes.
Right. So obviously, right. So right. This is also another thing I was going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So after the concert that they just had, as I just talked about, they get in Draco's car. It's the flying car.
666.
Flying car, 66 on the back, right? So then they go into the Forbidden Forest after the concert. So of course I thought, Forbidden Forest. Forbidden fruit. That's clever.
That is.
Not the first allusion to
They're
the
going
Bible.
to the Forbidden Forest to go have sex because that's what they're not supposed to do.
Yeah, the fruit on the tree.
Right.
Remember the part in the Bible when the vampire went into the Garden of Eden and they had sex under that tree and God's like, "You mother effers."
Hey, you know what though? There is a lot of people will say that Judas Iscariot is the first vampire.
Yes, my dad's a preacher and he loves. There's a movie where they made the first vampire be Judas.
Hi.
And it's like he's one of his favorites.
I have no comment here. This is.
I feel like here's another kind of intro to us note. I think you can kind of tell like Seth's dad's a preacher. Joe seems like he's Christian, but this isn't like a religious podcast. We welcome people of all kinds, of all faiths, of all race, religion, color, creed, all of that stuff. So don't feel like we're gonna be getting into like anything alienating with our faiths and our beliefs.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're all welcoming here. Speaking of welcoming, well, how's this sex scene go?
How's this?
So
welcome.
He drives her off into the Forbidden Forest. She's upset at first. She's like, what the fucking hell? I asked angrily. And then he leans in, and she sees his gothic red eyes. I read this. He was wearing color contacts. I read this earlier.
You're in color contact.
Which revealed so much depressing sorrow and evilness, and then suddenly I didn't feel mad anymore. I'm like, man.
How could you not be mad at that?
How could you not look into
evilness?
Draco's sad, depressing, and evil red eyes and not be mad or emotionally upset in some way? You just can't.
His eyes
obviously
are so calming. I feel so at home when I look into his evil eyes.
But I guess when you're a Satanist,
right? That's like your thing.
That's your thing. So
Yeah.
Also, can I say, when you said she says angrily when she curses like that, you could have just said normally, because everyone talks like this in this story.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think it's
Every
important.
character.
I wouldn't have known that she was angry based on only her words. So I'm glad that she lets me know.
Suddenly,
And I wouldn't know that she enters things sexily, things like that, if she didn't call it out. I wouldn't have a frame of reference for that.
So then suddenly, Draco starts kissing her, right? He climbed on top of her. They started making out against a tree, and then he took her top. He took of her top. It doesn't say off. That's the one. That's also one grammatical thing. I'm like, okay, she never says off. She always says of. Every time. He took of my top, and I took of his clothes. I even took of my bra. Then he put his thingy into my you-know-what, and we did it for the first time.
Whoa.
Man, such an adult way to put that, right?
My virgin
I know.
ears.
Wow.
Then that rolls right into my next thing.
Uh-huh.
How many times does she say beginning to get an orgasm?
A lot. I mean, it's not always orgasm. Sometimes it's orgasm. Sometimes it's
a couple times it's orgasm.
I'm not fully aware of like starting. Like, I thought it was like a thing that it happened or it didn't.
Uh-huh.
Oh God.
I'm pretty sure it's like edging.
So the female orgasm doesn't work like that. It's a build-up.
For three white straight dudes tell you how women work.
I saw that and I was like, I don't know. I just looked at it and I was like, that's a weird way to say that, is it?
Well, it's
But I think it's like,
well, hey,
which prompted me.
Which you started to get an orgasm. That means that
prompted me to start keeping track of how many times she said she was beginning to get an orgasm, and then promptly did not have one, or was cut off by some other character.
Yeah.
Which so far has happened twice.
Yes, I've read. She does complete this orgasm.
Happened in chapter 4.
Yeah.
Which Dumbledore runs in and says, "What the hell are you doing, you motherfuckers?" Right?
Whoa,
right at the end of chapter 4.
I'm sorry, Dumbledore curses?
Yeah.
Why? Why is he cursing? Does she tell us why he's cursing?
Is there something wrong with his head or something?
Well, yeah, because in the author's note right after. Stop flamming. If u flam, it mens a prep or pauser. The only reason Dumbledore swore is cause he had a head atchy. Okay, and on top of that, he was mad at them for having sex. P.S. I'm not updating until I get 5 good revows. I believe you read that earlier, Ian.
I did, yeah.
I'd like to applaud both of you for your wonderful translation of Gothic. It's not an easy language.
Thank you.
People look at it and say, "Oh, it's almost English," but it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
You know.
I actually have one phrase later in my notes that I really want to
it's
what it means. So
if you could pick up Old English, it's close.
You know what?
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. I said that. I was hoping nobody would question it, but I couldn't even keep it down. Hey, thanks for tuning into that episode of the Friction Podcast, presented to you by the Mead Hall. If you'd like, leave a comment, and maybe subscribe to the